Hi again, I'm Chris Skinner and I'm here with Massimo Cirasino from the World Bank. Massimo, you and I speak regularly at conferences around various trends, particularly in the remittances market space. And the figures I see are, $320 billion worldwide in remittances, rising to $500 billion in 3 years. What's actually happening at the moment, and what do you see as the key trends?
Well, Chris, always a pleasure. Yes, indeed, we are trying to study trends. Of course, some of the numbers are affected by the financial slowdown, and what we are seeing so far is that although there is a decline in the growth rates of remittances if we compare them with a few years ago, even a few months ago, but remittances are still resilient and people are still sending money back home. So we expect them to continue growing in the near future and possibly go back to the growth rates we were experiencing before, up to 10% per year at a certain point. So you can constantly monitor our forecasts on the World Bank web page. They are constantly changed, and different regions are affected in different ways, as we can expect. So stay tuned, and every 2 or 3 months we publish new estimates.
And what are the key activities that the World Bank's engaged in this space?
Well, we tend to look at several aspects of remittances. I myself am responsible for payment and market infrastructure and access to finance. Other colleagues look at the developmental impact, data collection, and so a broad range of activities. From our perspective in my group, we are very much involved in implementation of the standards that we created a couple of years ago with the Bank for International Settlements in the payment system arena, the so-called general principles for international remittance services. And we are working with a good group of countries to implement them, and they cover areas such as transparency and consumer protection, payment and infrastructure, legal and regulatory framework. So a lot of activities going on in different countries.
There's a couple of things you just mentioned, Massimo, which I'd like to explore a little bit further. One is the technology infrastructures for remittances, because there's various things happening now between prepaid cards, for example, and mobile telephones and other services. What do you see as the key technologies that are impacting this space?
Yeah, thank you for asking me this question. We don't want to attach too much importance to a specific piece of technology. We don't want to put our eggs in one basket. We think that technology, of course, is a facilitator. It has been for many years, and in particular in this field of remittances, should be used extensively to, make sure that people are served in remote areas or have more options. But we think that the debate, at least in my group, we think that the debate is too focused on specific technologies rather than on the overall objective, which is to reduce the cost and increase the efficiency and have more access. So to the extent that this technology can help that, that is welcome, but we shouldn't, be overly, excited about a particular one. Okay. So I think the jury's still out, I guess.
Interesting, because the other thing that you raised is the regulatory landscape, and I know you've mentioned some of the work that's going on at the G8 level, so maybe you could articulate a bit more around what's happening there.
Yes, last year the heads of state of the G8 countries asked the World Bank to coordinate a global working group on remittances, and we accepted, and we have created infrastructure to address these things. The different areas that I mentioned before are addressed in that context, and of course a lot of action is taking place at the level of legal and regulatory, meaning trying to remove some of the barriers that regulation is imposing and trying to create a better marketplace, a level playing field. It's easier said than done in many cases, but certainly we are trying to be as aggressive as possible to do that. So this is part of a broader, of course, initiative, as I said, at the G8 level, but one important component will be addressing legal and regulatory needs and constraints.
And I guess the final question, Massimo, would be the audience for this conference is primarily banks and bank technology providers. So what do you think would be the key things you'd tell them to be thinking about for the next year when they're looking at the remittance markets?
Well, I think that there are a lot of improvements that are taking place or will need to take place in the infrastructure component. So messaging, clearing, and settlement. I think at times we forget about our core business, which is to facilitate those functions as well. Of course, retail is one of it, making sure that let's say banks and other institutions can market these products is very important, but the infrastructure that is behind that is going to be equally important. And I think that more is to come in that debate. So I guess next year will be, at least we will try to devote it more on this messaging, clearing, and settlement infrastructure.
Perfect. Massimo Cirasino, thank you very much. Good to see you again.